Hello everyone, this is Roden and we're doing another market lesson here. So today we're going to be going over Providence Industry and Market Operations Overview. All right, so basically just observations of what we've experienced so far in Providence and how that relates to our market and industry operations. All right, so we're going to be going over key differences between null-sec and high-sec industry. Null-sec industry is teamwork, the importance of accounting, and effective material logistics. All right, first lesson here. Key differences between null-sec and high-sec industry. So the first line item here, perception of value, convenience versus profit. And you see this, you see this obviously also in high-sec, but it's very prevalent in null-sec, where people will value convenience more than ISK, honestly. As long as things are made easier for players in null-sec, they're more than willing to, pay up a little bit more for it. Right? Case in point would be when we have CTAs. All right. If fitted ships are available on contracts, even if ISK for ISK, they're actually more expensive that way versus just clicking on your fitting, going buy all, and then assembling the ship and just fitting it like that. People will still prefer to just get it on contracts and just hop on that sucker. It's just a matter of convenience. All right, not just because of it's just less clicks to get there, but it's just it's already there. It's someone had already bothered to get all the work done for you. They even shipped it to the location of where you were expecting the ship to be, or where you prefer the ship to be. All right. So keep in mind that convenience is definitely a great commodity here in null-sec. Right, local production in null-sec is generally widely accepted behavior. High-sec favors robust assembly lines for mass production. All right. So obviously a lot of mining happens in null-sec. All right. And all that mining will eventually lead to people going, have all these ores, have all these minerals. We should probably do something with them. And then from there, just traditional production lines spring up. All right. But at the same time, you kind of have to think about it too, as far as how viable that is. Not just right now, but like months, years down the line. I think we're seeing the act of mining becoming more of a strategic activity as opposed to an industrial activity, just by virtue of your ADMs increasing much more effectively and maintaining itself much more effectively by mining as opposed to ratting. So that's kind of how I've started to change my way of thinking on that one, because a lot of people, they just, I don't know, man. Given all these resources, a lot of people actually have a really hard time grasping in like scaled industry. Like it's not a very natural thing to do, even as an organization. I think it's mostly because I think that kind of play style has been lost through the years for the most part. I think a lot of people actually don't look into the numbers and just assume there's profit. Or maybe they don't even care that there's profit, but that's fine. If you just find enjoyment in it, that's cool too. All right. So, I think is local production happening? I think it is. I don't think it's happening efficiently, but it's still happening because, the ores have to go somewhere. No one's just keeping it and paying for it. You know what I mean? So some production is happening somewhere, and maybe a fair amount of just good old exporting is happening as well. But mining is definitely happening in null-sec, that's for sure. All right, high-sec favors robust assembly lines for mass production. Yeah, when I was in high-sec and I was doing my less tech 2, I was doing it more for tech 3. And as a single player, I was able to basically run at least one full account's worth of production lines with, and not simple tech 1 either, tech 2 stuff with components, tech 3 stuff with components, doing PI reactions, etc., doing the whole line on one account, To do that in nullsec, is it possible? Yeah, probably. But a lot of times you may end up actually importing a lot of stuff anyway. So the beauty of doing it in high sec, and what lends to it being more robust, honestly, per character, is the geography. You can get that kind of production line going literally one jump from your point of sales, from a major point of sales, which is Jita. You can do all this stuff in New Caldari. You can do all this stuff in Perimeter, and buy and sell the requisite materials and the final product right in Jita itself. Okay. All right. Next item here: traditional high frequency market hub plays foreign to nullsec due to low volume. Consider contracts market instead. All right. So that's one of the first things I actually observed here in Providence was, are things being bought and sold in Providence? Yeah, of course there is. But considering that you have the established CVA people, established alliances, and just plain old neutrals, there's a lot of people in Providence, right? But if you look at the market, you'd think this was like derelict region, like the ass end of Empire. You know what I mean? There's way less action happening at the regional market level in Providence because of the inherently low volume. I think a lot of people just fail to even bother to look at the stuff, and they go straight to contracts, to be honest with you. Again, using that same example of fitted ships, a lot of people would just, hey, look at contracts. Oh, here it is. I'm just going to go buy it right now. I don't even want to look at the regional market. I'm going to go buy it right now. And it's partly just ignored, to be honest. So depending on what kind of the demographic makeup of your region is, there's a really good chance your contracts market is probably a lot more active than your regional market. Okay. But at the very least, if you're trying to capture things cheaply, consider putting up buy orders in your regional market. I've been pretty successful in actually getting minerals that way, for myself, for my corporation. Like last night, I finally got finished collecting about 7.5 billion ISK worth of minerals. Like, I captured this very cheaply, like cheap. But the only thing was, it was coming from all over the region, so I had to jump freighter the stuff in, right? So that was a bit of a pain. But in the end of the day, I think even after fuel cost, I definitely still had a pretty good, have a potentially profitable setup based on how cheaply I got the minerals. Okay. All right, nullsec industry is teamwork. Man, it's so true. All right, the very nature of standings, access control lists, and organizational knowledge inherently make scaled nullsec industry an exercise in good teamwork. So that's, unless you know a lot of important people in nullsec, in the region of choice that you're going to, you're probably not going to be able to just go in there and set up shop the way you want to. All right, because there are security risks. There is a matter of territory. All right, standings, the ability to access structures through access control lists, organizational knowledge by virtue of, what is our alliance's doctrine, what is our coalition's doctrines, things like that. It's gonna be basically nearly impossible to get all that information on your own if you're just some guy that's coming from high sec and want to set up shop immediately. Not gonna happen. All right, you're gonna have to be able to play nice. You're gonna have to be able to be at least a recognizable person in your corporation to probably get access to some of these items. All right, so it is inherently it's team effort. It is team. This is nullsec. This is, it's a genuine community of players, right, in the vastness of space. So you need to kind of be at least a bit sociable, kind of approachable, to be able to get this stuff done. All right, next items. Don't be afraid to hire trusted individuals in nullsec. So true. This will help keep efficiency up and lower the risk of burnout. So what kind of activities could you realistically hire out when you're nullsec? Probably the hauling. That's probably an easy example right there. When I first within my first 2 weeks, I had hauled in or paid for the courier service via my alliance, hauled in pocket defense doctrines for our area. They were just simple cruiser fits. That's all they were. But if I had, why did I do that via courier contract, supposed to just using my own resources, my own ships? I wasn't done training it yet, So I was like, well, I really would like to get this in, because we've had several instances where everybody get in a PvP ship and we're all just, and that's the last you'll hear of it. Like, oh, all right, everybody get in PvP ships. Then nothing happens because no one has PvP ships, or they do, but they're like, not organized with their materials or something like that. All right. So I wanted to correct that by trying to sell those pocket defense doctrines in there. But if I had the stuff, I probably could have get it in the same day. All right. But I couldn't because I didn't have the ship. I didn't have the skills, rather. Okay. So that's a pretty common thing to hire out, the ability to haul. All right. Besides that, you could probably do something to the effect of working it out to where I can gather minerals through the market through my buy orders, but then you're a producer. I don't have the same production skills. Maybe we can work something out and work together. All right. So involving more people into your operation helps keep the efficiency up, because not everything is gonna fall on you. All right. So if you say we're sick or real life happened, your operations can still continue to go even though you're not physically there, like on the keyboard to do it, right? And just even on a simpler note too, it lowers the risk of burnout. So you're still going to be motivated to go out there and do it. You're still going to be motivated to actually, go through the motions of collecting the stuff, building the stuff, selling the stuff, right? Without feeling like, oh my God, this feels like work now, And for this line item, I kind of just wanted to make a note of what I personally have been doing. So I've reached out to Corp, and I'm currently working on helping with organizational ISK making through traditional production lines. So what I've actually had made arrangements for is, so for my corporation, Valkyrie Knights, with UI Federation, the Alliance, I basically have control of one corp wallet. I put my own money in there as a thing, so I just needed access. So what I wanted to do was actually show people how a working production model works. It's very difficult to show people how stuff works without the visibility. All right. So if I have control of a wallet and leadership can obviously audit the wallet, then they can see, oh, okay. So this is kind of like how you would end up incorporating this kind of task for a corporation. All right. So basically all I'm doing is, through that wallet access and my money, I'm capturing buy orders of minerals, building something with it, and selling it in region, all through the same wallet. So that now it becomes this passive method of gaining value, gaining money for the corporation. Is that something that can be scaled up? Well, absolutely. Production lines are definitely scalable. You just have to be realistic with how much more work you're actually physically taking on. I think a lot of people don't think about it that way. They think, oh, I'm just gonna start building caps now. I was like, you sure you're just gonna start building caps now? You sure about that? So be realistic, but that's one way to actually help out with your organization. And and not just I had to kind of prove that I was trustworthy, right? So I had to prove that I'm not just gonna run with the money. And that's kind of why all I asked for is actually just access to the wallet, but I would populate it with my own money. So that kind of worked out that way. So hopefully we can continue, and hopefully we can actually continue to make money for the corp and provide like good SRP. All right, the importance of accounting is a really good one. I think this is a subject that I don't think gets talked about enough, to be honest. I think it's just assumed. But when you start talking the nitty-gritty on this subject, a lot of people kind of just they start they stop being serious, even though they've been playing serious the whole time up until that point, because this is part of the serious play. So if you're in the business of trying to have a profitable operation in EVE Online, the game, you actually have to employ some some real life accounting practices. I know, sounds weird, right? But it's just one of those things. Like, if you're gonna play serious, then you actually do need to play serious. You don't play serious like half-assed, because then you're not really, you know what I mean? You're just playing for fun at that point. And it's okay to play for fun, but you have to kind of acknowledge that, because some people really are playing seriously, and it kind of breaks the gameplay if it's not all done together that way. And nothing is free, not even your time, especially not your time. So a lot of people will think of I'm mining, and I just, whatever I get from my mining, I just build stuff with and I sell it. Then someone will ask, well, how much profit did you make of it? Everything's profit, man, because I mined it, so it's free. It's like, no, man. That doesn't. There's an actual like money value attached to your ores and your minerals. But if you as a player just honestly don't care about it, that's fine. It's just that hopefully you're going to be able to maintain that gameplay style, because if you're not paying attention to how much things cost, you may find yourself in a position where it's no longer feasible to actually build at a loss, because you've run out of money, you've run out of resources, all your mining ships have been ganked, and you can't replace it because you've been selling at a loss for like the last 6 months. You know what I mean? So even just for the purpose of sustainability, you actually have to look at it like a real business, because otherwise there's just not enough money. There's not enough money to go around. There's no money to refit your ships. Okay. All right, failure to practice proper accounting will ultimately result in losses. Yep, just talked about that. And these are things that a lot of people just don't realize that it's part of cost. And when I challenge people in arguments about are they making profit, a lot of them kind of get quiet really quickly, because they know they're probably not making profit. All right, so these are things you just have to factor in. I don't care how you end up factoring this in, but ultimately this has to be part of the math. All right, you have to factor in fuel. By fuel, I mean if you're using drum freighters, the fuel is not free. You paid for them. Like I fly a RIA, and a full fuel bay costs about anywhere from 130 to 150 million ISK. And how far can that take me? Honestly, considering the cost, not very far, to be honest with you. It's the ability to move it safely that I'm paying for, not necessarily the distance or the ability to hold cargo, right? It's the safety. Sino ships cost money, all right? Because not just the ship itself, not just the Sino module itself, not just the liquid ozone, but the fact that you have a second full-on Omega account. That's the real value, all right? So that's definitely not free. Like, plexing an account doesn't make it free. You know what I mean? So another thing to consider. How you end up valuing that in reality, it's totally up to you. But I'm just telling you, your second Sino account, it's not free. Market taxes. This is negligible to a point. Like, the market taxes that I see in the NPC stations here in Providence is definitely different from the market taxes that I see in the Fortizars and the Asbels, all right? So if you're thinking about scaling your operations, you really have to consider that they exist, but sometimes they can be so cheap you don't even think about it anymore. And that's fine, as long as at the end of the day you're actually making money. Just know that they do exist, and they may affect your bottom line. Pay attention to how vastly different items are valued between high sec and null sec. Market equilibrium is different in every region. Now, this is just something you're just going to have to kind of just work out through observation. in certain regions, maybe certain modules are favored because of the types of rats that are there. Maybe armor is more favored over shields, or drones are more favored over missiles. Maybe we use Macarials here, and in that region we use, I don't know, Drakes, something like that, right? So through your observation, figure out what people want. Just because something sells well, say in Jita or Amar, doesn't mean that it's going to sell well in your region. It just may not. It may be absolutely inappropriate to actually use that stuff, use that high volume item in your region. All right. So this is more of a note on observation, so that you're not wasting your time trying to force something to be bought in region because, oh, but it sells so well in Jita, it sells so well in Amar. Surely it will sell well in Paragon Falls. Like, hey man, sometimes it just doesn't. It just doesn't. You know what I mean? That's not something that the residents are looking for. All right, so it's a matter of observation. All right, and our last big section here: effective material logistics. Man, this section really means a lot to me because I'm that guy who's lost freighters in HiSec. I'm the guy who's lost transporters in nullsec. I'm the guy who potentially in the future will lose a jump freighter because I fly one now. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. All right, but there's things you can do to prolong the life of your hauling ships. All right. So when we're talking about material logistics, that's exactly what we mean, haulers. We're not talking about shield reps or armor reps or anything like that. We're talking about the ability to move materials and ships from point A to point B, okay, and how to do it as safely and as effectively as possible. All right, be prepared to either incorporate a jump freighter or a trusted courier contract service to assist in your industrial operations, especially if you're trying to establish some sort of market or industrial operation of any scale. Honestly, in nullsec, you're gonna have to eventually be faced with this question: do we train and buy a jump freighter, or do we find someone trusted to run a courier contract service? One or the other must happen. If you're joining a corporation or corporation alliance in nullsec, ask who does the courier services for them. And if you're met with like, oh, I don't know, I think you just ask around and they'll do it for you, I'd be very wary. I would be asking more follow-up questions, because then you could be potentially joining a corporation or alliance that maybe individually people have that stuff going on for them. They have their own jump freighters and stuff, but they don't help each other out as far as getting stuff in, or they have kind of the very standard response of, oh, just check it out in market. We have our market in this region is here. Just see if they have it there. Because I'll tell you, 99.9% of the time, not everything you're looking for will be there 100% of the time. There's gonna be a lapse in availability. Are you gonna be okay with that lapse in availability? All right, especially if it's your main that's going to nullsec. Because if you don't have ships and you don't have modules or have anything to do on space, then I guess you should just log in your alts or something. Log in your horde alt or something. So one or the other has to happen. Okay. A combination of jump freighters and various other types of haulers will be best. If at all possible, do not use jump freighters in Empire. I still see this, and people still die like every day. All right, I don't think there's ever been a day ever since jump freighters have been introduced that a jump freighter will not die in Empire. I don't think it's ever going to happen. All right. So let me explain what my personal setup. So I have a jump freighter on one account, Rodin, and I have another account that has my Sino, and on that same account I have two other characters that can run transporters. So I effectively have a logistics chain that can span from. So let's just talk about. So let's say I want to get something from Jita. What I would do is log on my alt account, log on my hauler in the transporter. I'll buy the stuff from Jita, haul it over all the way to the last high sec where my jump freighter will be staged, and then from there I would make the exchange between my hauler, my transporter that bought the stuff from Jita, take Rodin in my jump freighter, make that one jump from low sec to high sec, gather all the items right there until my cargo hold is full. Then once it's full, from that high sec station, set up a sino back into Providence, undock, light the sino, and jump. All right, and I would just do everything reverse to get stuff back into Jita. Okay, so for one person, 2 accounts, and the appropriate characters with the appropriate skills split into 2 accounts, I can basically have my own pretty safe logistics chain. So one of the keys to that one is, besides making that jump from low sec to high sec on the jump freighter, sometimes I don't even do that. I actually get everything into low sec. If time permits, I would actually do that. Like, I would never actually ever take, at least for the RIA that I have right now, it hasn't seen a high sec system yet. I would like to keep it that way. So ideally, what I would like to do is from Jita in a transporter, haul it to that one jump to low sec. I would just physically scout myself in, or just wait it out. Honestly, most of the times I'm in no rush. All right, and make it so my jump freighter will either be in null sec or low sec, and doesn't do manual jumps. Maybe it can move from Citadel to Citadel in the same system, but it never crosses. It never goes to a gate, ever. Ideally, I would prefer if it never went to a gate. I would prefer if it never went to high sec, because jump freighters manually flying through high sec is its most vulnerable state. It's not really designed for. I mean, it can obviously it can manually go gate to gate to gate in high sec, or anywhere. Honestly, it's just, even though you're hauling nothing in your cargo, you'd still be a viable target for a ganking crew. It'd have to be a pretty significant ganking crew, but it doesn't. It's not gonna take 7 billion ISK worth of ganking ships to destroy a jump freighter. I can tell you that right now. It doesn't. So from a ISK positive, from a ISK efficiency perspective, you will always be a good target, regardless of whether you even have something in your cargo hold or not. So just be careful with that. All right, and when using jump freighters, sino into friendly citadels in order to be tethered. So I find myself, this is a must do for me. I must always do it like this. When I'm in my jump freighter and I'm jumping around, even though my ultimate destination is, say, an actual NPC station, or outpost rather, I will make it a point to actually sino in a citadel. As long as I can be tethered in that citadel, I will sino myself in there. Now, why would I do that? It seems inconvenient, because now I've just sinoed into an area in space, but I still have to go to another station. Well, once I land through that sino and I'm in tethering range and I'm tethered, I'm effectively, I'm safe. Like, you can't apply damage to me as long as I'm tethered. You cannot apply damage to me. All right. Oh, what if you get bumped? I don't know if you the tethering range of Citadels is enormous. Even in Astra houses, it's enormous. It's gonna take a lot of bumping materials to push you out of range, man. So you're pretty honestly, it's gonna take some really for a freak accident or just absolute carelessness to die while piloting a jump freighter and sinoing yourself in tethered citadels, and that's all you do. It's kind of impossible to die. or rather, it's really, really difficult to die. Okay, so there's that. So that's what I would recommend. And if you can't, if that just isn't gonna be the case, when you do sign yourself in, see if there's another route you can take where you can have access to a friendly Citadel. Otherwise, you do run the risk of of being attacked as soon as you jump in there. You just never know what's gonna happen. All right. So if at all possible, I do recommend that you guys sign yourselves in and jump raiders in friendly Citadels. That tethering mechanic is it's basically like it feels like an exploit because it's super safe, but it is what it is. As long as it's there, you might as well take advantage of it. Okay. And the last bit here, when using jump bridges, ensure they are not camped. So if you're in a jump raider, you can use jump bridges. In order to use jump bridges, the module has to exist. There should be no sino inhibitors or anything like that. My only concern when folks do that is sometimes they use jump bridge to jump bridge blindly. They just, I don't have my alt up. I'm on Rodent. I'm in Aria. I'm gonna go jump from the jump bridge. I'm gonna use the jump bridge in system. I'm gonna end up 5 jumps later, but I don't know what's on the other side. If I don't know what's on the other side, there could be like, for all I know, man, there could be like folks camping the jump bridge because the jump bridge literally is just a module on the pause. That's all it is. It's a module on the pause. All right, so just be careful. When I fly transporters around, I definitely use jump bridges, but I would never do it in my RIA, that's for sure, because it's much safer. Although it does take a little bit more time, more setup, but I'd rather be more careful than lose a 10 billion ISK RIA because I jumped in blindly into a jump bridge as opposed to just sinoing myself into a friendly Citadel where I can be tethered. Okay. All right, so I think that covers all the stuff that we wanted to cover here. And so we talked about an overview of market and industry operations that we're doing right now in Providence, and the different bits and pieces of our operations, like how we're acquiring minerals, our production line, and how we've been hauling things around. All right, so hopefully this was helpful to you guys, and hopefully we can take take in some tips here that to use for your own organization, because it is pretty difficult sometimes, especially if you're not like an industry type or have never done it with other people. I think that's really the biggest barrier for properly setting up processes like these. Is I think anyone on their own can do it, but when you start working with other people, it gets kind of like clunky. So hopefully I was able to impart some knowledge to you guys that would help you make it less clunky. But if you have any more questions, of course, feel free to put it in the comment section below, and I'll be able to hopefully be able to answer it for you. But besides that, you can always catch me on my EVA Station Trading show on Twitch, and that happens every Tuesday at 0100 UTC. All right, hopefully this was helpful to you guys, and I'll see you guys next time.